Shalom Akim, first and foremost. I'd like to turn to the east and give all praises to Yahweh, Ba'ashem, Yahushai, Ba'ashem Kwadash. Before I begin this lesson, I'd like to give double honors to the apostles and elders of Great Millstone who do well and teach well, man. You know, and this, I want to get into this lesson, about Satan trying to sift us out this truth, man. Before I get into that, for any newcomers or any, believers, new believers, I want to read this 12 tribes chart real quick. So we got the Southern Kingdom, which is Judah, which is the so-called Negroes, American blacks. Then we got Benjamin, which is the West Indians, so-called Jamaicans. Then we got Levi, which are the so-called Haitians. And these three tribes are the Southern Kingdom tribe, man. There's only three tribes in the Southern Kingdom, man. Now we're going to the Northern Kingdom. This is Simeon, starting with the Dominicans, Zebulon, going from the Guatemalans to Panamanians, Ephraim being the so-called Puerto Ricans, Manasseh being the so-called Cubans, Gad being the so-called North American Indians, the Native Americans, Reuben being, the so-called Seminole Indians, Naphtali being the Argentinians to Chileans, Asher being the so-called Colombians to Uruguayans, and Issachar being the so-called Mexicans, man. These are our biblical nationalities, man, not, being called, Hispanic or Latino, a black person, things of that nature, man. Those are all proverbs and bywords, man. And that's a curse, man. Going to the book of Deuteronomy, chapter 28. But that's a lesson for another time, man. I'd like to get into the book of Luke, chapter 22, verse 31. This is what I wanted to get into. And it reads, "And the Lord said, Simon, Simon, behold, Satan hath desired to have you, that he may sift you as wheat." And let me go on with the Blue Letter Bible real quick. I'm going to go into the word sift, man. Luke 22 and 31. Let's go to it right here. All right. And I'm going to go into the word, sift, man. Let's see. All right.
Strong's G 4617, Siniadzo.
Strong's G 4617, Siniazo, in the Greek. Let's see what it says right here. The outline of biblical usage says to sift, shake, and a sieve, and there's the point right here, by inward agitation to try one's faith to the verge of overthrow, man. Satan is trying to make us give up, a continuing in his truth, man. He wants us to have no faith. He wants to take our faith away, man. He wants us to be like, man, fuck this shit, it can be your job, one day you can just be like, man, I don't even want to fucking do this shit. And then, hey, you give up your job, man. But hey, you don't want to do that, man, because that's also tempting the Lord, man. And we should be wise. Let me get that precept. We should be wise and not as fools, man. Because that's not the spirit of being in right now, man. Ephesians chapter 5, verse 15. "See then that ye walk circumspectly, not as fools, but as wise, redeeming the time, because the days are evil." And which days are we in, man? We are in the last days, man. Jeremiah chapter 30, verse 7 is about to come, man. And let me just get that real quick. In the GNT, man. Jeremiah chapter 30, verse 7 in the GNT. "A terrible day is coming, no other can compare with it. A time of distress for my people." And who was I just saying? It's for my people right here is going into the tribes that I just showed you, man. These are the only people that can receive salvation. No other nations can receive salvation. Only the 12 tribes of Israel, were given that covenant, that promise, man. To further edify on that, let me get that. I think it's in Romans 9. 9 and 4, if I'm not mistaken. Come on. It's the book of Romans, chapter 9, verse 4, and it reads, who are, let me see if I can get some more on this. Start at verse 1, Romans 9 and 1. I say the truth, in Yahushai I lie not. My conscience also bearing me witness in the Ruach HaKodesh, that I have great heaviness and continual sorrow in my heart. For I could wish that myself were accursed from Yahushai, from my brethren, my kinsmen, according to the flesh. And what does kinsman mean? I'm gonna upload another one, man. Kinsman definition. We kin, man. As Jake likes to say, what up, kin? In the world, Jake in the world. But look, kinsman reads a man who is one of a person's blood relationship, man. Blood relations, Salakia. Hey, we're the same of the seed of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, man. Let me go back to Romans 9. Salakia, did I lose right here? Salakia. Romans 9 and 4, man, to get to the point. Who are Israelites, to whom pertaineth the adoption and the glory and the covenants and the giving of the law and the service of Yahweh and the promises? Whose are the fathers, of whom, as concerning the flesh, Yahushai came, who is over all, Yahweh blessed forever. Amen. This is who these promises were for, man. But before that, hey, we have to go through this straight gate, man. Through difficult times in our lives, man. Whether it being family problems, work issues, bodily ailments. You can go down the line. Anything that may hinder you from walking in this truth with a single eye, man. With keeping your eye on Yahweh Hashem Yahushai, man. Not giving in too much, not giving too much into, drinking too much, going out too much, partying too much, whatever the case may be for you, man. Because we got to get this one right here. 1 Corinthians 6 and 12. First Corinthians, chapter 6, verse 12. All things are lawful unto me, but all things are not expedient. All things are lawful for me, but I will not be brought under the power of any. And let me get it in the NLT, so it can be easier for any brother to, any newcomers, if they may be, to understand it. In the NLT, man, 1 Corinthians 6 and 12, you say, I am allowed to do anything, but not everything is good for you. See? Drinking too much can be bad for you. Going out too much can be bad for you, because then, hey, you get that yan, you're drinking, and what happens, man? You get carried away. Salakia, you get carried away. You start spending money that, hey, you're supposed to be saving, Hey, because I've had testimonies with that, man. I'm going to start from the top. You say I'm allowed to do anything, but not everything is good for you. And even though I am allowed to do anything, I must not become a slave to anything, man. We got to be, hey, walk circumspectly, man. I'm going to read this again. Ephesians 5 and 15. See then that ye walk circumspectly, not as fools, but as wise, redeeming the time, because the days are evil. And what is Shaitan doing, man? Just flowing through the spirit right now, man. Okay. 1 Peter chapter 5. You know what? Let me see. Let me open it up. 1 Peter chapter 5. Let's see if I can get some more on this. I'll just start at let's see. All right, Salakia. First Peter chapter 5, verse 6, man. Humble yourselves, therefore, under the mighty hand of Yahweh, that he may exalt you in due time, man. You know, and we have to continue following his commandments and obey the Lord in order for this to happen, man. That he may exalt us and deliver us from these temptations, man. And it reads, verse 7, casting all your care upon him, for he cares for you, man. You know, this is the point right here. Be sober, be vigilant, because your adversary, the devil, as a roaring lion, walketh about, seeking whom he may devour. You know, and Shaitan don't sleep, man. You know, he's a spirit. He don't get tired, man. You know how Jake in the world, you know, that dude Kevin Gates, he got a song, you know, I don't get tired. Hey, Shaitan don't get tired, man. You know, and hey, even if we feel tired too, in a way, man, we can't be tired. Hey, the flesh, you know, let me just get that real quick, man, just to edify. The flesh is weak. Spirit is willing, man. You know, Matthew chapter 26, verse 41. Watch and pray. See? That's a spirit, man. Watch and pray that ye enter not into temptation. You got to watch, pray, and fast, man. And it reads, the spirit indeed is willing, but the flesh is weak. You know? Hey, we might not want to do some things, man. But, hey, even though we're tired, we got to get up and keep going, man. You know? 1 Peter chapter 5, verse 9, whom resist steadfast in the faith, knowing that the same afflictions are accomplished in your brethren that are in the world, man. You ain't the only one going through things, Jake. Speaking to myself first and foremost, man. You know? Things come in our life to discipline us, man. And we got to look at it like that, in that way. You know, certain things might happen to us, losing our job, our family, you know, things of that nature, man. But that thing, hey, you gotta look at it with a spiritual lens, man. Just because, hey, you might be fucked off for a little bit, hey, the Lord is using that to build you up. He's trying to see, hey, what are you gonna do about this? Like, how are you gonna walk accordingly to what just happened, man? You know, are you gonna give up the faith, or are you gonna keep having faith that the Most High Yahweh Shem Yahushai is gonna come through and deliver you from these things, man? You know, but with that, I hope this lesson was edifying to the elect. I'd like to turn to the east and give all praises to Yahweh, Ba'ashem, Yahushai, Ba'ashem Kakodash.